Yo, what is going on, guys? This is the Fish119 here, bringing you guys another Battlefield 5 video today. Hope you guys are having a wonderful day, and today we're going to be discussing the top 5 best guns for each class in Battlefield 5. As you guys already know, we are on the road to 70 subscribers, so if you could please throw a giant 16-inch shell towards the like button and possibly at the subscribe button too, it would be much appreciated. But with that out of the way, let's get into this delicious Battlefield 5 content. So we are going to be starting out with the Assault class. And the first weapon of choice is the M1907SF. You can see that in the gameplay in the background. One of the reasons I really like this gun is because it has some pretty good capabilities of it. In short range, which you should be using this only really in short range to medium, maybe not even medium, but it is a very fast firing assault rifle, almost like an SMG. It is very capable at the short ranges of taking the enemy out very quickly. But you do have to be careful because it only has a 21 round magazine. So I would say this gun is more for the average to more experienced type of player in Battlefield 5. Now moving on to the STG-44. Now this gun can be used fairly by almost any player, I would say. You can use it on almost any ranges, short, medium, and long, which is very good for any new players or very experienced players because no matter your skill level, you can use it to a great effect. Now moving on, we're going to talk about the Breda M1935PG. The Breda is a burst assault rifle, and you can also turn it into a semi-auto firing assault rifle if you so choose. One of the good sides about this thing is that you can switch between a burst fire and a single fire shot. So if you're in close quarters, you might want to switch to that burst fire. And if you're in long range to medium range, you might want to switch to the just one shot. It's very capable at doing that. Now moving on, we're going to talk about the Carabin 1938M. The Carabin is it's just single shot only. So it's not like the Breda, even though the Breda can do some single shots, but it's not designed just for that. I just choose to use it that way. But the Carabin is only a single shot assault rifle. And it only has 10 rounds each. So fire off those 10 rounds, reload it 10 more rounds. And so the Carabin should only really be used in, I would say, medium to long range, but it can be used quite well in short range, depending on the situation. It depends on how aware your enemies are, to be completely honest with you. But you can use this very well and effectively in the right certain situations. I would say this is more of a harder weapon to use. I would also say that for the Breda, is more of a what's the word I'm looking for? More of an experienced player's weapon to be using. I think a newer player would have a kind of a harder time using it, and the Carabin is more of a I think some new players could probably use it well, but also experienced players will be able to use this one very well. And moving on to the last one, we are going to talk about the M1941 Johnson. Now, a lot of you guys probably have used the Grand in this game. It's one of the best, well, not really the best anymore, but it's very good. But the M1 Grand was a semi-auto, but the Johnson is basically a more interesting version of the Grand. The Grand only has, I think, 7 to 8 shots, and the Johnson has 10 shots. So it gives you more wiggle room, so if you do miss shots, you don't have the greatest aim, the Johnson might be the choice for you. Now the Johnson should usually only be used at long to medium range, but you can make it work at some short ranges, but I would not recommend that. And the reason that I would say this is more of a beginner friendly weapon to use is because it has those extra shots that you can use. So if you tend to not have the greatest aim, you should be able to use those extra shots. Now, for semi-autos just as a whole in the assault class, I would say that they're not really good for beginner players. That I would say you need to be leaning more towards the assault rifles that are faster firing, like the STG-44 and stuff like that, because It's fully automatic. You can use that to the best of your ability if you tend to miss a lot of shots. So just start out with that if you're a newer player, like guns like that, and then once you get more experience, move on to those semi-auto guns. Now moving on to some honorable mentions, where Sturmgewehr 1 through 5 is a good one. That is a very fast firing one. Not extremely fast firing, but you can make it work. I would say only use that in short to medium range. Another honorable mention is the MAS-44, another semi-auto rifle, harder to use out of all of them. That's why it's an honorable mention, because it's much harder to use. And I would say the Grand is one more semi-auto. It's pretty good, but maybe not for the newer player. So that is it for that part of the video. Now moving on to the medic class, we're going to talk about the top 5 guns in this class. So for the first spot we have the Sten, a very reliable SMG. This is the first SMG that we actually unlock in the game, so for new players, this is what you're going to be getting for your first gun in the medic class. And it's pretty reliable. Has the 31 or 32 round magazine. Stick mag sticks out the side of it. And it's pretty reliable for a first weapon that you get. A lot of players that know how to play the game too, have been here for a while, can really make use of that weapon too. It has a slower rate of fire, but high damage, or decent damage, not really high damage, but it does pretty well for how low of a tier gun it is. And this gun, like I said, can be used by all skill levels, and it is mainly supposed to be used in short to medium range. Now moving on, we have the ZK383, one of my personal favorites. The reason the ZK is one of my favorites is because you have an option to make it either a slow or fast firing SMG, excuse me for saying all that right there, but you have that choice to do that. And so you can make this thing into a beast up close, or you can have the slower rate of fire for more precision, which is really nice. And this gun, I think, is a little bit hard to use, but it is one of my personal favorites, so I'd recommend for this gun to be more advanced for people who know what they're doing. So if you know what you're doing, then this is a gun for you. And if you're a new player, I would kind of stay away from this maybe. Or put the slower rate of fire instead of the faster rate of fire on that for your first thing if you do want to use the ZK and you're a newer player. And I would say this is only supposed to be used in short to medium range. Now moving on, we have a well gun. You're seeing this in the gameplay in the background. The well gun is quite good, as you guys can see from the gameplay in the background. I would recommend this for new players too. Almost any skill level of players can use this. Maybe it's a little bit harder for newer players to use this, but maybe not. I don't really think it would be very difficult. But I recommend using this only in short to medium range. You can pull off some long range shots with this. It's not as easy, but you can do it. And moving on, we have the Suomi KP31. Now the Suomi is an extremely fast firing SMG. I would only recommend using this in short range. No medium range, no long range, just short. This is definitely going to be the hardest one out of all the SMGs to use because it takes a lot more skill to be able to control the heavy recoil that it has. Now, if you are landing your shots and you have really good precision, then I would recommend you using this only in short range, like I said earlier. This is definitely not for a beginner player. I think this is one of the last SMGs you also unlock in the medic class. So, if you want something that's going to do high damage, but only in short range, then this is a great option for you. It has the 50 round magazine, so it has plenty of rounds for you. I think basic comes with 20, but you can upgrade it to 50. And it does empty the mag very quickly, so be aware of that. It empties it very quickly. Now moving on to some honorable mentions, we have the M3 Grease Gun. That is a little bit hard to use in some SMGs, but you can make it work. Then we have the Tromboncino, which is a bolt-action carbine. I don't really like the bolt-action carbines in the medic class, but a lot of people can make that thing work. The reason I say this is honorable mention, it is a little bit hard to use, but another perk of it is it has a grenade launcher that you can use on it. So if you get in a sticky situation, need to use a grenade launcher, it has that available for you. Next honorable mention is the Commando Carbine. This is another bolt action carbine. I would say this is really only for short to medium range, and it has a suppressor on it, which is one of the biggest draws to it. Otherwise, if this was just an ordinary gun, I would not use it. It's not that great. The damage is like it's decent for what it does, but it does have that suppressor. So if you want to be sneaky with it, you have that option. Now going back to the Tromboncino, because I didn't really say what skill level that was. Tromboncino, I would say it's a harder skill level, so more advanced players need to be using this. I wouldn't recommend this for newer players. So if that sounds good to you, then go ahead and use it. Now let's move on to the support class. Now we are in the support class section of this video. One of the weapons that I really like to use in this game is called the LS-26, and it is very good at medium to long range and even short range. It is slow firing, but it can do a ton of damage. It has a 6 bullet kill at all ranges, so it is slow firing, but it can do a ton of damage to enemies, which is very useful in some certain situations. Very good for flanking, but because of its slower rate of fire, it can be harder to use for a new player because it doesn't have very much in the mag. It only has 20 rounds, and that can go away pretty quickly. Even though it is slow firing, it can go away quite quick, more quickly than you would think. And as I said, it's not really a gun for beginners to be using. It's more of an advanced gun for players to be using. But it's very good at almost everything. You can do a lot of stuff with it. I prefer to put a scope on it and laser people from far away or up close. You can choose to do whatever you want with it. But now moving on from the LS, and we have the Bren gun. The Bren gun has 30 rounds in its magazine, and this one I would say is about a medium to long range again. Not really good up in close range because it also has a pretty slow rate of fire. I would say this is another like it, not really good for beginners, but more of an advanced gun because it does have a little bit of recoil. Some people say it doesn't, but I think it does have a little bit of recoil that new players might find hard to use. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm just weird and can't get along with it. But it is pretty good once you get the hang of the recoil. It can take an enemy down pretty quickly. So yeah. Then we have the Show Shot, another very slow firing one, but extremely deadly. It's like the LS-26. And it does fire very slowly. It also has the 20 round mag, just like the LS-26 does. And it does almost everything the LS can. It's pretty cool to use. A lot of fun. Now the other one that we're going to talk about is the Lewis gun, the one you see in the background right now. Now this thing has a 47 round magazine on my build, but I'm pretty sure you can get up to 84. Now this is a middle of the line gun. Almost anyone can use it. You see how I have a scope on here. I feel like I can control recoil way better with a scope on it. I have no idea why, but I prefer to use it that way. And it's pretty good at all ranges. You can see I have some short to medium range. It's not exactly good at long range, but you can make it work. And I would say, yeah, almost any player can use it. And the last gun that we're going to be talking about is the M30 drilling, and this is the shotgun. Now this thing has a mode where it only will fire one shot. I don't know exactly what you call it. I think it's called a buckshot, but it can almost snipe people. If you hit them in the head, you can snipe them, get a one shot out of it. So it's pretty interesting. And it's also the double-barreled shotgun. So if you want to switch to the actual shotgun part of itself, you can one-tap enemies sometimes, which is quite fun. But the only downside is that it does have only 2 shots and you have to reload. Or that one shot if you're going to be using that sniping mode. That's what I call it, the sniper mode. So I would say only use this in short range. It can work at some medium range if you're using that one-shot capability, even long range. And I would say this is more of a what am I looking for? Advanced player's weapon. So keep that in mind. Now, some honorable mentions are the MG42. Don't prefer to use machine guns because they are not my type of play style. Next one is the FG42. Only has 20 rounds, so be aware of that. I would say that's only supposed to be used in medium to long range, and pretty hard to use because it fires so quickly. And another one that is also good is the Type 97 MG. Has a slower rate of fire, but it can take enemies down very, very quickly. And I would say this is more of a beginner-friendly one, possibly. Now moving on to the last part of this video, the sniper class. Everyone's favorite thing to do in Battlefield is just a little bit of sniping sometimes. So, of course, we're going to talk about the 5 best weapons that you should be using in the sniper class. The first one is a semi-auto sniper called the Subslider 1906. And that is actually quite good. A lot of these semi-auto snipers don't get enough attention in this game, I feel like. And one tip for all of you guys, all snipers, including the semi-autos, the bolt actions, and all that other good stuff, they are all one-shots in hardcore. So if you're playing in a hardcore server, they are all one-shots, just so you guys know. But a Subslider, I think it has 5 or 6 rounds each. So, you fire those off, you reload that. That's what you do. And it is quite deadly. You can, in normal multiplayer, it's a 2-shot kill. If you get a headshot, extra damage, so that's always lovely. Subslider is quite good in a lot of ways, and I would say I only really use it to medium to long range, but it can be used in some short range, but it's not really recommended because of its slower fire. Next we have the Gewehr M95. This is a bolt action rifle with high amounts of damage. So if you want to be doing high amounts of damage, then this is your weapon to use. It has a pretty quick reload, I would say. Not really quick because they're snipers, but it's good enough to where you can get past it. And of course, one-shot headshot for all snipers, but not the semi-autos. Like the Subslider, not a one-shot unless you're in hardcore. So keep that in mind. And the next weapon is the Lee Enfield. This is one of the fastest firing snipers in the game. It can hold 10 rounds. And I would say this is more long range to medium range. You don't want to be using this in short, but I guess you could make it work. If you have a really good shot and fast reaction time, then you probably could use the Lee Enfield in some close quarters situations. I would say this is a beginner-friendly sniper. It's the first sniper you get in the game. So if you're a beginner and you're just trying to learn the mechanics of how sniping works, then this is a great choice for any beginner. It has plenty of ammunition, and it's great for anyone who wants to get a hang of sniping. The next one is the Type 99 Arisaka. Now this is one of the newer weapons that we got in the Japanese update. Well, not really new, we got it about a year ago, but it's pretty good. It kind of reminds me of the Gewehr, just a Japanese version of the Gewehr M95. Cycles pretty quickly, so if you're, quick to shoot, then this is probably going to be good for you. You can cycle through it pretty quickly. Holds 5 or 6 shots like all of them do. And I would say I'll really only use this in medium to long range like almost every single sniper that we have talked about. So keep that in mind when using it. I only really want to use it in those ranges. And I would say this is more of a advanced player's weapon, kind of like the Gewehr. The Gewehr is a little bit harder to use. I wouldn't recommend it for most beginners because it is a little bit more difficult to use, but it's still usable, still viable if you have a good shot, and pretty good reaction time. So just keep that in mind when you're using this. You can see it in the gameplay in the background, just teabag someone right there. And the last one that we're going to be talking about is the Boys AT rifle. Now the Boys AT rifle is a one-shot in within 75 or 80 meters in every single mode. The only reason I don't really like the Boys AT, even though it is an excellent choice, is because you have to lay down to use it. That is the only way you can use it unless you hip fire. You can stand up, still shoot it, and hip fire, but you're probably not going to hit your target if you do that. So just keep that in mind when you're using the Boys AT. But it is very powerful. I would say to beginners not to use this because it has the slowest reload times of every single sniper except for the Panzerbusch, which is basically the same thing as this German version. So if you want to be using the Boys AT, if you do have that unlocked, I could say it's kind of a campy play style to be using it in, but it's also pretty good if you're not camping. You can still not camp with it. You can move around, get a nice little location, sit there for a few minutes, move around. It's a viable gun to use in almost any situation. Now, some honorable mentions are the Ross rifle, pretty good. I would say this is more an advanced weapon, only to be used in medium to long range. The RSC, you saw that in the beginning of the gameplay, I think. I guess you can use that in close quarters. I was using it in some close quarters combat, so if you guys are into that, make sure to test it out and see how you like it. And the Krag Jorgensen is a Sniper 2, has pretty good range, one of the best draws to it, because it has really good range. So if you guys want to have range and high damage, then go for that choice, because it has all of that. Now, let's talk about the channel real quick before we end this video. Now, if you guys want to see some more Battlefield content, make sure to let me know in the comments section what exactly do you want to be seeing. I think for the next video I want to talk about best vehicles possibly, or the best pistols and gadgets. That could be a really good video for you guys to enjoy. So I hope you guys enjoyed that video. Make sure to hit the like and subscribe button if you did enjoy, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching, and peace out.